Welcome to the No Mom is an Island podcast. As moms, we often long for moments of being alone, but the truth is sometimes we feel downright lonely. The intention of this podcast is to show you that you aren't alone, that we all experience similar things along this mothering journey. If you enjoy this podcast, please check out the episode description for ways that you can help this podcast continue. Well, multitasking masters, whatever you are doing while you listen to this podcast, we hope you enjoy hearing the story of another mom. Today we welcome Susanna. Hello, Susanna. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's so nice to talk to you. It's been so long since we've spoken. We're childhood friends, and now we're Facebook friends, so we do see, each other's lives that way, but it's been a long time since we've actually talked, so this is fun to me, and I appreciate you being willing to talk to me.
I'm honored that you asked me to do this. Thank you.
You're welcome. So why don't you tell us about your family?
Okay, so I'm married. I've been married now. We've been married for 16 years, and we have two girls, ages 7 and 10, two dogs. So that's pretty much my family. And then my mom does live with us now for about a year and a half.
Okay. And
very helpful with the children.
I'm sure. And it's particularly helpful when you're doing, tell the audience what your life looks like as far as your job commitment.
Okay. Well, I'm an officer in the Air Force, and requires me to be gone for certain periods of time for training. And I was recently deployed I was gone for almost 7 months.
Okay.
And having my mom nearby was incredibly helpful.
I'm sure. Yeah, even just in that it gives a second adult to manage the day-to-day with your two girls.
Yeah, and also she became kind of like the mom figure. Sounds like I'm a bad mom.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
She handled the day in and day out things with the girls and got them to school and at night. But I was able to Skype with them almost
nice.
Twice a day, most days. The biggest challenge with that was trying not to interfere with both of my husband and my mom. That was a challenge, trying to keep my hands off.
Right, I'm sure.
Not to criticize their decisions.
I hear in your voice, and even we've talked about it a little bit, that, you sometimes you question, the health for your family of your vocation. But, the fact that your mom lives there and can, fill in that role when you're not there seems to me like very much like a gift from God as far as how to handle all of that and how to manage it and let it be healthy for your family. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. And I try to see the bright side of situations like this, like being gone for 6 or 7 months.
Right.
They get to establish a strong relationship with their grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Not all children have that opportunity, or
right.
Like in that way, that's a gift.
Yes.
And just learning from, for me, I feel like that's the silver lining in all this.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So what would be your perspective on parenting?
Such a loaded question.
I know.
Well, I think that my philosophy, and I've read this before and this made a lot of sense to me, is preparing your child for the road, not preparing the road for your child.
Right.
And I feel, especially with my vocation, that learning independence or learning to rely on each other, problem solve when I might not be nearby. And I feel like our job as parents is to ultimately, we want our children to leave the house and the people around them. And I feel that vocation kind of allows them to do that, especially from a younger age.
Right. I love when you post pictures of your daughters cooking. They clearly really like doing that and have been given the opportunity to really try their hand at it. And sometimes when I see it, I honestly feel a sense of guilt because I have such a hard time letting go and letting them my kids just do stuff in the kitchen without being like, you're making a mess.
I know. Yes.
So it always makes me smile when I
Definitely.
see your girls doing that, and they clearly love it, and you clearly give them the space to do that, and I think that's really neat.
That did not come naturally, I must say, to take a step back and consider what's important and what's not important.
Right.
And husband has taken kind of a primary role a lot of times, especially if I'm gone for training or
Right.
work.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, let's face it, men are not with like women are. So that helped the girls kind of establish some independence in the kitchen because they didn't really care as much if they made a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I think that gave them some confidence and a little bit more independence.
Okay.
I think men allow children to take more risks.
Definitely.
Very good for the kids.
Yes.
I'm a nurse, so let's face it. I'm gonna little things kind of make me very nervous.
Right.
But my husband is a little bit more take risks.
Right.
So that has been good for them.
Yes.
Another silver lining.
Yeah.
Me being gone sometimes. So
right. It's the mom's job to make sure they stay alive, and the dad's job to make sure that they actually live, like that they try things and do things.
Exactly.
Yeah. We laugh about that too, because, the dad, my husband is the one who is like the risk taker and encourages risk taking with the kids, where I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound like a good idea. And the balance is actually really healthy. It's really very good for kids to have both.
I completely agree.
So, what has been your favorite thing to teach your girls or to watch them learn?
Oh, I definitely seeing them, establish independence and confidence in that the younger one says, I can do this, Sarah can do this, and confidence in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Tackling new things has been exciting to see. And then they have had to move, and they know what it's like being the new kid, so and kind to the new children and feel welcome. That I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm glad they were able to learn that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I've tried to decide if I'm going to stay in the Air Force or get out. They love meeting new people, and they don't want me to get out of the Air Force, which is, I was very surprised to hear that, because I thought that I was damaging them by being away, but I think that gave them a lot of confidence.
Right.
You seem to really enjoy that.
I think the neat thing too is, regardless of when you decide to get out, your girls have had a neat foundation of what it means to open their hearts and minds to new places and new people, and also the memory of also what it feels like to be the new person in the new place, and that's something that will, I think, carry always with them, because it's kind of become part of their personalities, that they recognize, they understand that, and that's something that I think they will always just carry with them as a thing that they do when they meet somebody new, and that's really neat. When our kids were little, we worked at a camp, and there were new people in and out all the time too. And summer camp was different than the off season when we had retreats in. And when we had retreats, we had groups of people in for weekends, and just watching our kids learn to be hospitable and friendly to whatever the group was. And sometimes they weren't people that even culturally were similar to us. And so it was really neat to watch as the kids got used to all of that and found it very normal and were exceedingly friendly. And I see that, so we haven't been there for a long time now, and yet I still see some of those characteristics in my kids about being hospitable and friendly and making sure the new person feels acclimated and at home and comfortable and all that kind of stuff. So I think your girls, regardless of when you choose to step out, that's going to be something that's always part of the way they treat other people, and I think that's really neat.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I definitely see that in the girls, and I feel like that's something that you can't necessarily teach without them experiencing it. So I feel like that's a wonderful gift you can give to your children.
Right. You watch as some children And I mean, frankly, adults too, but aren't always open and warm and welcoming to the new person or the person who maybe feels like they're on the outside. And I know your girls probably do it too, but my kids can't understand why somebody wouldn't welcome the new person in. You know, like that doesn't like they don't understand like why wouldn't somebody be nice to, like be nice and include that person. They just can't wrap their minds around it. And your girls will grow up feeling the same way and be, almost like the champion for somebody who needs the friend. And not afraid to put themselves out there and meet the new person too. A lot of people are afraid to do that. And, the experience your kids have had means that they aren't afraid to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right. So what has been your least favorite thing to teach your children?
Well, the least favorite, it's going to sound weird, but it's probably leaving them and them having to rely on husbands. But ironically, that is the one thing that made them stronger, I think. But it has been my least favorite.
Right.
Just because it can be so painful. And I think the best things to learn I think that would have been my least favorite thing to teach them.
Right. So what's the longest you've had to be gone?
The longest I have been gone or that I have to be gone?
Have been so far. What's the longest you've been gone?
Oh, okay. Almost 7 months. It was like 6 months and 3 weeks.
Okay. All right.
Now, the hardest thing in that process was actually leaving. So I left about 3 in the morning, and saying goodbye to my children was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Yeah.
Imagine, it was crying and a lot of tears, and right before I jumped into the vehicle to take me to the airport, said, "Look, Mommy, I want you to think of me," and it just ripped my heart out.
Yeah.
Things have improved in terms of technology, and the communication with my kids has been just blessing, and there's a lot to be thankful for with that. But the hardest thing, but they have grown tremendously through that experience.
So another question I have then is, what is it like when you return? Like, is there an adjustment period on that end too? I mean, the leaving is heart-wrenching, but I would imagine, particularly with technology, you can settle into a certain semblance of normal, where you just kind of get used to that it being that way. Even though you still miss each other, you do kind of settle into accepting it and being able to manage. So what about then when you come home? Was there an adjustment period on that end too?
I just felt very irritable. So the things that I could tolerate before I left, I wasn't tolerating very well when I returned. So I had to step away from the situation and almost like a hands-off approach, which for good or for bad. But just because I just couldn't handle that stress. But it has been improving since I've been back.
Okay.
And so that in that regard, it was my husband really had to step up to the plate, and which he has. He's done an amazing job.
Right.
But it was definitely a challenge for him as well. And my girls have been very, very patient. And I think preparing them before I returned was also beneficial. And my husband tried to prep them for what to expect as well. But definitely there was an adjustment period.
Right.
And still is. But they're very understanding. And I try to be as loving as possible. Right. And if I get irritated, I tell them I just have to step away.
Right.
And maybe with their ages, it makes it a little bit more helpful for them to understand that. So they've been doing a great job.
Yeah, I think anytime we, take the time to be honest with our children, once they're old enough to understand things and, just to be honest and frank with them, I think that really helps. And I think in many ways we're showing a high level of respect to our children when we just kind of like come clean on, it's like, sorry, I'm feeling very irritable today. Like, I'm asking you to forgive me for being cranky, but I'm also asking you to give me a little space too. And I think, sometimes we think that we shouldn't say that and we should just keep trying harder. But I think when we tell our kids that, we demonstrate to them that, we have faults too, and that, there is an appropriate way to deal with a tough day. And so, you reference, the feeling guilty about that. But as a stay-at-home mom, I have those days too. Like it's not just you and what you do that as a vocation that, has that kind of thing. But I think we all struggle with that. I think it's kind of like just human nature. Now, your circumstances are different, with being gone. And I think it causes you probably to put pressure on yourself for everything to be perfect when you're home. But yeah, none of us are perfect when we're home. So I think we all learn and grow as people as we also deal with the people around us that we love.
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. That was very well said.
Yeah.
So,
what has been, and maybe you've kind of addressed this already because I remember something you just said a few minutes ago, but what has been a high moment in parenting? Like a story that you were just exceptionally pleased with how how a parenting moment went or how your children reacted in a circumstance. What has been like a high moment?
Well, I think the way the kids, wow, I have a lot of high moments. So let me think of, to maybe give you a few examples. I think when they have expressed confidence in themselves, like, I can do this, Sarah can do this, Ella can do this, like when they verbalize that to themselves. And I feel that I've done a good thing as a parent to kind of help foster that confidence in them.
Yes.
I feel like that's something that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And I think just their willingness also to go with the flow with whatever we need to do has been a big plus. And I feel very proud of that. That would be probably the most important thing for me with this experience I'm going through is them having this confidence in themselves.
Right.
Just great kids across the board. So
yeah.
Most things that they do are big highlights for me. And that's another thing. I try not to take things for granted as much and try to live in the moment as much as possible because I don't get all the time with them. So, and I hear, and this little sidetrack, but I hear some parents complain about their children and almost whining about them, how they don't have the best behavior and I can imagine that they're probably just venting to other moms. But for me, my time is so precious with my children, and I would never complain about them to other people just because that time is so precious.
Right.
So most of the time that I'm with them are high points because that time is so precious.
Right.
But yeah, they're just when they're good to other kids, when they enjoy other cultures, they're culturally sensitive to other people. I feel like that is a big highlight for me because I feel like maybe I'm doing something right. So
yeah. What has been a significant parenting influence in the way you choose to parent, whether it be an experience or a person?
Definitely my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely my mom has had a big impact on how I parent. She is always so loving. She is accepting, and I mean she's good at, she disciplines, but she's very clear in saying, like, I don't like this behavior, but I love you. I will always love you. And my father also, he did the same thing. For me, those have been really big impacts for me with parenting. My husband, his family, I've learned a lot from his parents, both what to do and what not to do. I'm trying to think of who else has made such an impact on me with parenting. But even just other friends in the Air Force, other officers that I work with how they manage parenting and how they're just very honest with their kids and this is what to expect have also been very impactful to me. I can't say it's one person, one individual, but I definitely taken notes from just different people I've met along the way.
Right.
And picking the good and the bad. So,
I hear a lot of intentionality in your parenting when you're, and you're talking about different things about your girls and your parenting. And that's a really precious thing. Sometimes when you're in it day in and day out, you forget to be intentional and notice every moment because the moments seem like they're the moments are plentiful, and so I think we sometimes waste them. And yet, like I'm hearing from you, how intentional you are about maximizing each of them, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that is the one thing that I am learning is being in the moment, whatever you're doing. Trying to be in the moment because they're so fleeting and and precious. So.
Right. All right. So, what do you do for self-care? Like, how do you take care of yourself?
Okay, I can actually speak to that pretty well because it was very stressful in Afghanistan just across the board with multiple facets. And running is the one thing that helped me maintain my sanity and keep my emotions in check, keep my my anger in check. So now I've kept that habit since I returned.
Okay.
So I run at least 30 minutes a day when I'm off. So it's about 3 or 4 days a week at least that I run. And that helps keep my emotions in check. And when I get stressed, it really helps keep my stress level down.
Okay.
And then also, we try to go to the salon.
Okay.
At least, I try to get my nails done. I know it sounds so maybe vain, but it does help to make me feel better. And then I feel also that I'm teaching my girls how to take care of themselves.
Right.
And there's a lot of mother guilt with me leaving to run in the morning because even this morning I ran before this interview and Sarah was begging me to stay. Mommy, please stay. And I said, Sarah, I have to do this for myself. Mommy's going to be a better mommy if I can do this for myself. And then again, Tom and I, we go on dates. And that's also making me a better mom.
Yeah.
And the girls, we explain that to the kids that mommy and daddy will be better mommies and daddies when we get to spend time by ourselves. And so that's mainly what I do with self-care, but I try not to extend that time too much. And so that's about that's about it.
Yeah,
I guess.
and I think when we make sure we take care of ourselves, we are also modeling to our children the importance of taking care of ourselves. And as parents, we also need to be modeling the willingness to self-sacrifice. That we give up maybe what we want or our own preferences for the good of the whole, the good of the family, the good of the children. But I think it is important that we're also modeling that, you also need to take care of yourself. So whatever that looks like, they may not always get it in the moment, in the morning when they wanted something else other than that. But over the course of the years, and then as they become adults, like they have it modeled to them that it is important and that, it's part of being healthy. And so I think that, we as moms need to make sure that we don't let ourselves feel guilty about taking care of ourselves in the midst of taking care of everybody else.
Absolutely. And I feel like that is one of the gifts that you can provide for your kids is that model. And you can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself.
No.
If you're getting sick, you can't take care of others very well, of course. So
it's hard to take care of others when you're spent and cranky.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then eating well is very important. So that's another way I try to take care of myself.
Okay.
And again, having that model of the importance of, eating healthy and trying to keep your weight in check.
Right.
For me, I think that's an important gift for my kids.
Right. Yeah.
Lesson.
Yep. All right. So what's your favorite, the term is like a life hack. It's something that makes your life easier, faster, or cheaper. Something that works well with you that you would consider a life hack.
So that's so funny. My 10-year-old loves life hacks, and she tells me them all the time.
Oh, that's funny.
She could probably get on the phone and tell you the best life hacks. But it's Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It might not necessarily be cheaper, but time is money.
Yes.
So that can definitely save time. Yeah, I feel like for me, time is so precious.
Right.
That anything that can save me time is a life hack. Okay, big life hack. I don't go to the gym. I run outside.
Okay.
For me, I can step outside my door and I can immediately start exercising.
Right.
That's 30 minutes as opposed to spending 20 minutes driving to the gym,
Yes.
driving back.
Yep.
So for me, even saving 30 minutes is a big deal for me.
Right.
For me, and that helps keep my stress in check. That's a big life hack for me and makes me a better mom.
Yes. Yeah, those are two good ones. Just the idea of like things that save your family time while also providing what you need.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what else. Having my kids do more of the work,
Yes.
like chopping up vegetables, that's a time saver, and then they get to learn how to be a little bit more independent in the kitchen.
Right.
That might be a little life hack. Oh, I don't think I'm very good at life hacks. I'm sorry.
No, I think those were good life hacks. All right. So what would you give as a word of encouragement to another mom, whether it be a weary mom or just a struggling mom? What would be a word of encouragement or advice that you would give to her?
I would say that whatever you're feeling, whatever emotion you are feeling, I can almost guarantee that every mom has felt that way, is feeling that way, or dealing with certain challenges that you may be dealing with.
Right.
That we are not an island.
Right.
We're not alone in feeling how we're feeling. And I feel that reaching out and talking to other moms is so beneficial because you can either get different opinions, different advice, or just you don't feel alone.
Right.
I think that would be the biggest piece of advice.
Yeah.
And I've been a bad mom, and at times, I guess we've always felt that way, but just knowing that not all moms have made the best decisions, or maybe we could have made better decisions, but we're not alone in that.
Right. And love covers a multitude of sins. Like none of us are perfect, but the love that we shower on our kids, I think, covers up a lot of the imperfections in our mothering.
Oh, definitely. And I think moms especially can be so critical of ourselves.
Yes.
And I don't think our kids necessarily see us that way.
No.
And they see us as, in my opinion, that we're doing the best that we can, and
right.
They're loving us for that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think just don't feel guilty about taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like that is one of the best gifts you can provide for your children, is taking care of yourself.
Right.
So I think that would be my advice.
Yeah, good advice. Well, it has been really nice to talk to you. I've enjoyed watching your family from afar, through Facebook, but it was so sweet to be able to actually talk with you today. So thank you for letting me interview you. Thank you for being willing to share your story and your life for the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you. Have
Talk
a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the No Mom is an Island podcast. We hope that it was an encouragement to you wherever you are in your mothering journey. If you would like to share your story or would like to see something added to our interviews, please contact us at nomomisanisland@gmail.com or send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please check out the episode description for ways that you can help this podcast continue. Thank you again for listening. Have a nice day.